Have you ever gotten in your car on a Saturday morning to head to Target and you were so lost in thought that you looked up and you're halfway to work and you realize you've been going the wrong way the whole time? I think we've all had that experience, that autopilot feeling where we weren't even consciously aware of what we were doing. We were just going through the motions. And it's a really good thing that our brain can do that. Imagine if we had to step by step think about every single, thing that we were doing in a given day. It would require way too much effort and energy. So our brain has this beautiful system of just automating some of our habit loops. And a lot of those habit loops, a lot of that autopilot is so built in because it's necessary for survival. So it's a great thing that we can, live that way. It's not great when you're halfway to work, when you're trying to go to Target and you're wrecking your weekend. But from a survival standpoint, that's what got us all here. So it's a good thing. But why am I talking about autopilot on my weight loss channel? Well, that's because autopilot can work against us too, right? We all know that having a set of bad habits, a set of loops that we do without thinking that are detrimental to our health are not great. We keep repeating these habits over and over again that aren't serving us, but it's just so much easier to keep doing it than it is to wake up, snap out of it, and make another choice. And who am I to be talking about weight loss? Well, my name is Heather Schucker. I'm a nurse practitioner turned weight loss coach. I lost 80 pounds using low carb whole foods and intermittent fasting. While I am a former healthcare provider, I am not your healthcare provider. So if you have any questions at all about something that I say, I highly recommend that you talk to your own healthcare provider to get some answers. Here's the thing, you've got to interrupt that pattern loop if you want to have any chance of changing it. You got to switch yourself into manual mode. When you're halfway to work instead of Target, you don't just keep heading to work, right? You're like, oh, hey, wait, this isn't where I want to go. There's somewhere else I want to go. And you change direction from right there and head toward Target. And that's exactly what you got to do if your current habit loops are not serving you in your weight loss journey. You got to snap out of it. You got to get into manual mode and you got to change directions. Because how annoying would it be if every single time you got up to go to Target, you ended up at work, right? 100% of the time you want to go there and you end up somewhere else. That would get really old. Eventually, as soon as you got in the car, you would start paying attention. You would maybe even turn off the radio. You would focus on what you were doing so that you could actually reach your destination. And it sounds kind of stupid and simple when you think of it that way, because who the heck is constantly ending up at work instead of Target? But a whole lot of people are constantly making the same choices that they don't want to be making and not reaching their goals, because they're not waking up, snapping out of it, and getting themselves into that manual, focused, brain energy, I'm paying attention mode. Of course, there's good news too, right? Once you get yourself into a new set of habit patterns, a new way of eating, a new way of living, then those become the new automatic pilot. So it's not like you have to stay in manual mode permanently. You don't have to consciously make every single decision permanently when it comes to food choices and movement choices and all of those things. But you got to make them long enough for them to be the new habit, the new default, the new automatic pilot. So how do you do it? How do you get yourself from autopilot all the time into manual mode when it comes to your weight loss journey? First of all, you need to have a vision of what you're trying to get to. We all need a destination in mind, even if you can't imagine exactly what you want your body to look like, or your waist size, or your, what the number on the scale, whatever it is for you. You should still have a general idea of like, hey, I'm not happy here. I want to get there. And that there needs to be kind of a driving force to you that pulls you along. Secondly, you should really have some sort of food plan. You need to have an idea of what your way of eating is going to be that's going to get you to that vision that you've already established. There are a whole lot of different paths to weight loss. You got to decide on one and start heading in that way. If that way doesn't work for you, you can change course midway, but you at least have to have kind of a compass, a directional setting that you're moving toward. I did make a video on how to create a food plan that you can find to give you some ideas on how to think about these things. So once you know what your vision is, where you want to get to, and you know your way of eating and your food plan, the tricky part is to regularly remind yourself of those two things, right? Whether that be before you go to bed at night, first thing in the morning, whenever you have a pause, right? Is it over your morning coffee? Is it on your drive to work? Wherever it is that you spend your thinking time, in the shower maybe, use that time consciously to think about, what's my vision? What am I eating? And have a plan in mind. And if you repeatedly do that, make that itself a habit, then as you go through your day, it'll be in the background, right? Your vision and your plan is going to be in your background, so that when you go to deviate, your subconscious will give you that little knock that, are you sure you want to do that? Because we've been thinking every morning that that's not what we're doing anymore. We have this new plan. And you do that often enough, and that new plan becomes the old habits. And that's the ideal. Okay, so you got your vision, you've got your way of eating. Every night before bed or every morning, you're making a plan what you're going to eat for the day. Okay, that is a huge, progressive step on the way to getting this thing done. The next thing is that when you're actually in that moment of eating, that you go into manual mode then too. And we have all heard this. We have all heard about the importance of eating mindfully and not being in front of a screen and not scrolling and not reading and doing all of the things that we do while we're eating. There's really good evidence that if we do that, we're more likely to eat more. We're more likely to, reach for those problematic foods. I mean, how many times have you sat in front of the TV to watch a movie with a bag of chips and then it's just gone? Maybe that's just me. I don't think that's just me. I think that's a common thing. I hope it's a common thing. Regardless, I really feel like we've all been in that place where we're doing things mindlessly and we don't even get the enjoyment. So, we will partake in problematic food. We'll get all the downside, right? We'll get the calories and the bloatedness and the whatever, but we won't even be enjoying it because we're distracted and thinking of something else. But because we're watching a movie or because we're scrolling social media. That's not great. If you're going to eat food that isn't so healthy for you, at least want to get the pleasure that you were hoping to get from it. But of course, if you're trying to make some progress on your weight loss journey, you want to get pleasure from healthier foods. And it's more likely to happen if you're paying attention while you're eating. And I am so guilty of this. So I know how hard this can be, but it's just a really good idea if you're going to have a meal, not to be standing over the sink or the island or in your car or all the other places that we eat without thinking, to actually sit down like a human, with a plate and a fork and a knife and no distractions and actually have a meal. Of course, it would be great if you always ate mindfully, right? It would be great if we did everything mindfully, because that is the way to really pay attention to what we're doing. But especially during your weight loss journey, you don't want your mind to be fragmented. You want to focus on what you're doing so that you can really ingrain those new ways of doing things. I eat this way now. These are my new food choices. This is my new set of habits. This is my new autopilot. So that once I finally lose this weight, I don't just go back to what I was doing before and gain it all back again. I want to keep it off, and I'm going to keep it off because I want these new habits just as built in as the old ones were. And here's another thing that you can help fight with being mindful and paying attention as you're eating. A lot of us have that habit of craving something sweet after we eat, right? It's built into a lot of it. It's so cultural, right? Dessert after a meal. And for some people, that's fine. Some people can, find like berries or something as a dessert after their meal. They can keep up with that habit. It doesn't interfere with them. That was not the case for me. I needed to kill that craving. And what I realized when I started being a little bit more mindful when I'm eating is that when you choose to eat mindfully, when you're not hungry anymore, you're more likely to go ahead and stop. right? You're paying attention, you're noticing your body sensation and your cues that you're not hungry, and you're stopping. Now, if that craving for sugar hits you, you know that that's what it is. It's a craving for sugar. You're not hungry anymore. If you were still hungry, you would eat what's on your plate. It's the sugar that you want. It's that dopamine hit. And you've been in this habit loop of chasing it, and you just want to stay on that loop. But if you're paying attention, you're less likely to just fall into that old habit. And then you are, can consciously choose to ride that craving out. And eventually, if you ride it out enough times, it's no longer going to be so automatic. I'm done eating, I want sugar. I'm done eating, I want something sweet. There's this old movie that I absolutely love called Moonstruck with Cher and Nicolas Cage. And there's this scene where Cher slaps Nicolas Cage in the face and says, "Snap out of it." And it's iconic. And I really think that that's what a lot of us need when it comes to our weight loss journey, because we ride so long in autopilot. We keep ending up at work when we want to go to Target. And the only way we're going to actually get to where we want to go is to wake up, pay attention, and make different choices.